Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Devlog season has started for the next major update, but that doesn't stop more changelogs coming out, which are affecting the game right now. In this video, we'll go over one of those changelogs which came out today, and also we'll be having a look at the data mines, because there is an event which is going on right now with War Thunder DMM, which means it's exclusive to the Japanese side of War Thunder. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to kind of talk about it, and also talk about the issues with all of these different versions of War Thunder kicking about, and all these different exclusive events. Turns out it sucks when you can't get access to everything, and when it's kind of more segregated than before. So as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. So the first piece of news is for the changelogs, update 2.47.0.114. Basically, what we have here is a bunch of different changes, mainly to aircraft, but also some ground vehicle changes, including an interesting change to the T-64s that might make them a lot better than they were previously. For aircraft, we start off in realistic battles. There was a limitation on the target angular speed before the missile launch or bomb drop has been removed, so this would prevent the AGM and guided bomb seekers from losing their tracked targets when carrying out aircraft maneuvers. So basically, if you turn too much and then, had kind of a lock on something and then tried to drop it, it wouldn't really work properly. So now they've fixed that, which means that CAS will be better than it was before. But just understand, this is there was a bug that was introduced in the last major update which made it so this wasn't possible anymore. So now they've basically just fixed that bug. So instead of having to go in a straight line and then fire all your ordnance and then turn, you can basically lock onto targets, set up a turn, fire your stuff, and then go off again. Which, as I said, this is literally what you could do before, so it's just kind of correcting it. For the JA-37s, the AJ-37, the F-4 Phantoms, MiG-23s, Su-24s, MiG-27s, Su-17s, Su-22s, Tornado, J-35, F-20, Rafale, and also Kafirs. For ease of maneuvering, the camera in third-person view has been moved slightly away. This seems to be a common thing they're doing in a lot of aircraft nowadays, where they are pushing the aircraft back. Field of view is one of those kind of things which is nice. It's also one of those areas which is, I suppose, kind of a balancing weird thing, because if you can see more stuff on your screen, then obviously you can react to it better. So you want kind of the biggest field of view possible. It's like kind of in a car game where I've never really understood the people who want to kind of sit on the bonnets of cars in racing games. For me, I want like the furthest back so I can see the most stuff, so therefore I could focus on everything that's going on. But I suppose if you're like really in tune with the track, you may want to do that so you can get those like little advantages, like sitting on the hood when it comes to setting up the way that you turn around a corner. But for War Thunder, field of view is super important because it's basically the amount of the screen that your vehicle takes up, so therefore you can kind of see everything else around. And them actually making it easier to see, I think, is a positive, because a lot of jets nowadays are huge, and they did take up quite a large piece of the screen. So they changed a bunch before, this is a bunch others, and I wonder if they'll continue that. For the Su-25T, the Su-39, and the Su-25 SM3, the level of IR emissions from the engines has been reduced, and that basically means it's going to be harder to lock onto them. But to be quite honest, it was pretty hard to lock onto them anyway. Most of these machines actually have access to the IRCM, like the Su-39. If you've ever tried to lock onto it from behind, you'll see what ends up happening is your seeker, or the seeker lock is just like it doesn't know what to do. And the same is true on the Su-25T. What's kind of annoying about these things is it's not actually on the X-ray mode, so you can't actually tell it's there unless you see it physically. So it's just one of those things you're supposed to know when it comes to the game, even though there's no information about it. So they've basically made it harder to be able to kill these things with IR missiles. They were already pretty hard to kill with IR missiles, so basically they're just a bit harder now from the front, and I suppose technically from the side. But if you're facing something like an Su-39 or an Su-25T, you don't really want to fire IR missiles at them anyway, unless they're the really good ones, and even then, it's kind of a waste of a missile. It's much better to gun run them or use semi-actives if you're able. I've seen a lot of Su-39s recently. A lot of people using it to grind out the events, because it turns out IRCCM missiles, even on a bad platform, are still really good against a lot of things that can't get away from them. The JF-17 and the Q-5L, there was a bug that caused an extra thermal mode to be present in the targeting pod, which made it necessary to press the thermal button twice to turn it off. Oh, interesting. So that's why my thermal wasn't turning off when I was using it in ground. That's kind of interesting, so nice to see that they fixed that. For the Su-34, there was the wrong requirement to research the KAB-500LG modification to unlock the KAB-1500KR modification. That's been corrected. It now requires the KAB-500KR modification. One of the things that I'm noticing in air quite a lot nowadays, I've been grinding through a lot of vehicles during this event. I actually nearly have the coupon already. There is a lot of vehicles with some very dumb modifications that are attached to each other. So, for example, I ended up spading up the CL-13B Mark VI. This is a 9.0 Sabre, which basically is 9.0 because it has access to the AIM-9Bs, and also it has a general better flight performance than most of the Sabres. In order to get the AIM-9Bs, you have to research through the rockets and the bombs which are attached to the AIM-9Bs. So you basically have to research through two useless modifications in order to get the one that you want. And this kind of sucks, obviously, because technically these are ground ordnance and air ordnance. They shouldn't be connected, and they're only connected to frustrate the player. And this is present a lot in many different aircraft, and I'm kind of sick of it. For the F5Es, you can now launch one countermeasure per launch instead of two. So you basically doubled the amount of countermeasures that you get. Because once again, the F5, just like the Su-25 and the Su-39 we talked about earlier, has a really low kind of, I suppose, IR emission set. So it's actually quite hard to lock on to them unless, you are directly behind them and pretty close. So this will actually help them out a lot. It will give them a lot more survivability, which, to be honest, they already had. For the F/A-18C late, the icon for the two GBU-12 bombs has been changed from the erroneously used GNSS bomb icon to the icon of the laser-guided bomb, which is good, because they're laser-guided bombs. There was also a bug that caused the inability to drop bombs at altitudes of more than 20 kilometers above sea level. That's been fixed, and obviously there is a achievement right now, which is one of the ones I don't have. But basically, you have to destroy somebody with a precision strike from over 20 kilometers away. So you literally couldn't complete that achievement. And then also the Falco, the AIM-26B. This is on the Mirage 3S right now. The drag coefficient has been increased. So basically, it has been changed. I will talk about the Mirage 3S at some point. I had a good time with it, and it was nice to use the Falcos, but my god, I got so unlucky with the matchmaking. Pretty much every single match I had, I'd say 90% of them were full up tiers, and 11 threes versus 10 threes is not a fun time. For ground vehicles, we have a few other changes. We have the T-64s, the engine RPM, when idling, has been increased from 600 to 800 RPM. So, unfortunately, it's only for idling, but I think that should mean that it's got a better kick off the ground, meaning that it should be able to go quicker from 0 to whatever, basically just giving it a bit quicker go. It also means they'll be louder when they're kind of sat down, and if you've ever heard the T-64s, they have a very, very distinct sound. They sound like a lawnmower. Same with like the TS-25s and stuff like that. So you can always tell if a T-64 is looking at you or a T-72 based on the noise. The Type 99, the anti-aircraft machine gun, is now controlled by the gunner. Yeah, before it was controlled by, like, I think the commander or the loader. So even if your gunner got taken out, you could still kind of use it. Now, it's not able, so that kind of sucks. The Vilcas gun has been renamed from Mark 44 to 44S, but I don't think anything's been changed on it. And also the 2S19 M1 and M2 now has a different amount of machine gun ammo. It basically, instead of having 900 rounds, now has 300 rounds. This doesn't make a huge difference, but that top-mounted like HMG that the 2S19s have is actually really nice, because against light vehicles means that at least you have something when they just run at you like crazy. For the other changes, there's a bug that caused the camera in the Pacific War Day benchmark to fly through the thick dark cloud. That's been fixed, so therefore you don't kind of get stuck. and also multi-vehicle SAM TEL vehicles have been removed from the vehicle list for the vehicle collector profile showcase, as they are not main vehicles. Which I suppose is fair, but at the same time, it's kind of nice to showcase them, right? Because you can then show them to people that you want. And also at the same time, you have technically collected them. Like you've researched the main vehicle, and that gives you access to the sub vehicle. And, so by buying the main vehicle, you also get access to the sub ones. Like, they're still there, they're still part of it, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like you can showcase them anymore. Why? Just seems kind of rude, really. So now it's time to talk about an event that War Thunder DMM does, that they've done a few times, but this one is specifically for the Yukikaze. One of the things to mention, by the way, is if you are not from Japan and you link your account to War Thunder DMM, you lose access to pretty much everything else from the international client. So don't do it, because you won't be able to use the Gaijin store, you won't be able to use the Gaijin market, basically. You'll only be able to use DMM stuff, which obviously isn't great. So if you want to participate in these events, but you're not from Japan, it's not a good idea, because you lose way more stuff than you should. Now, basically, what's ended up happening is they are doing a kind of interesting setup. So when it comes to War Thunder DMM, they are the kind of, let's call them publishers of War Thunder in Japan. They manage the store. They are kind of the local provider of it. This means that there is a separate client which is designed for it. And it looks like they're doing, as I said, a kind of new titles and new decals. So the title is Lucky Ship, and the DMM decal is the Yukikaze, and also a new decal for a snail, the Imperial Navy snail. So they're running a little event where basically you can activate a code, and then by activating the code, you get access to the Yukikaze for a bit, 7 days of premium, and then also some boosters. And if you end up buying the Yukikaze, you can get yourself the Imperial Navy snail. But what really annoys me is when you actually read through it, it says worldwide PC PS compatible premium ship Yukikaze purchase bonus. And it basically says if you decide to purchase the Yukikaze at rank 3 of the IGN tree and the Blue Water, you'll get a special title, which is the Lucky Ship title. You'll also get the Imperial snail decal, which is there too. And at the same time, this is for all accounts, PC, PlayStation, that purchased the premium ship Yukikaze during this period. And the period is from the 20th of August until the 30th of September. So you're like, oh, this is for worldwide. But then you look at the precautions, and it says, this offer is only available to Japanese accounts that launch the Japanese client using the methods provided by DMM Games. PC version War Thunder players must have data linked to their DMM account and Gaijin account. PlayStation version War Thunder players do not need to link their PSN accounts and Gaijin accounts with an email address. And then also please note that the service will not be available if the client is launched using a method other than provided by DMM Games. So even though it says worldwide, that's not what it means. What it means is basically if you are outside of Japan using the DMM client, which by the way is against their rules, because if you actually read the TOS of War Thunder DMM, or not War Thunder DMM, but DMM Games, they actually talk about the fact that this is a service specifically for Japanese people in Japan. So if you are outside of Japan using this, your service can get terminated. So they're literally putting in precautions for something which you shouldn't be doing anyway. And then also, you have the Japan-only part of it, which basically you have a bunch of different things that you complete, and therefore you get the extra decals, which we talked about before, the Yukikaze ones. But it just annoys me that these events exist for the DMM guys, and once again is exclusive to them, just like how we talked about the CIS region and how they get news that we don't. And then also you have like the Xbox stuff and the PlayStation stuff and also the main game stuff. It just sucks how there's just so much segregation around War Thunder right now, and there's just so many different versions of the events, and it's just getting worse. Now that every single kind of country is getting to a point where they're trying to enforce more and more different rules, trying to enforce more of kind of their setup on games, you're going to get more and more of this as it goes along. And it just sucks. The whole thing does. It just means that the average person gets access to less content because it's now going to be more regional specific, and everybody's going to be playing their own version of the game, which isn't going to be the same as others. Even when it comes to like War Thunder now, if somebody like kills you and you're like, oh cool, look at that profile pic, isn't that wild? And then you find out it's from like an exclusive event for like Chinese players from, I don't know, like 5 years ago, and it's like, oh, why didn't I ever know about this? Oh, well, because you could never get access to it anyway. It just sucks. The whole thing sucks, and I hope we get to a point where everybody gets access to everything, where everybody in Japan gets access to everything on the international server. Everybody gets access to the exclusive premiums, which are available on Xbox or PlayStation. Or maybe people can get access to some of the old content that used to be on the Chinese server. It would be fantastic, but it seems like we're going the other direction. And to be honest, that annoys me. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.